Department Inspector General has released a harshly critical report about the FBI's handling of investigations into allegations of child exploitation. And this report identifies multiple ways in which the FBI is continuing to fall short in these types of investigations. The major takeaway from this report is that there is still more work for the FBI to do in terms of how it handles, treats, processes, and investigates allegations of sexual misconduct against children. In particular, what this report found was that there were instances in which the FBI had failed to report allegations of misconduct against children to local law enforcement. One of the findings that really stood out is that the Inspector General reviewed more than 300 cases between 2021 and 2023. And of those, it identified more than 40 that it said had not been adequately handled correctly. In one episode, there was no investigative action that was taken for more than a year involving a claim of sexual abuse by a registered sex offender. And that was really startling. A senior FBI official told reporters on a call that the FBI regards the investigations of crimes against children as a no-fail mission, and it says it really regards this work as significant and important work that the FBI is determined to get 100% right. The official said that mistakes were made and that the findings of the Inspector General report, the FBI has accepted all of those recommendations and conclusions, and the FBI says it's going to continue to work to improve its policies and procedures, including through training for agents and supervisors.
All right, folks, we are back here on WLTH 1370 AM. I really did not want to do this story when it first came out a few weeks ago, because I don't like doing stories that I feel make the city of Gary look bad. I don't cover the city very much. Specifically for that reason. I feel like we have enough people coming down on us on a regular basis that it really sucks to have to talk about a story that really highlights a failure on the part of our city. And I mean, it's even hard for me to say, but it's important, because right now our daughters, our children in general, but especially our young girls, are in trouble here in the city of Gary and just in America, period. As you heard in the intro, the FBI is talking about how even they haven't been handling a lot of these cases correctly of missing children and children who've been exploited. And there seems to be a lot of young people, especially young girls, being exploited in this country. I'm here with Eve every Friday when she's talking about Rahab's Daughter, which seems to be an organization doing the Lord's work. I follow them on LinkedIn. They seem to do a lot of really good work when it comes to missing and exploited, particularly young women. But really, this story hurt because I think it really does highlight a failure of our city's government and just our city in general, where we had the situation where a young woman was raped while visiting the childhood home of Michael Jackson just a few weeks ago. I mean, I guess it's pretty ironic I'm doing this story with him looking over my shoulder here, Michael Jackson, and this is his birthday. Well, I'm sorry, yesterday was his birthday. I'm sure that his legacy looms very much over the city, but in a positive way. And this is what I like to talk about when it comes to Michael Jackson. Not that something horrific happened in front of his house that he grew up in, that should be a protected place, a protected landmark that people should feel safe from all around the world to come, and did. Now we have to deal with this situation where this 69-year-old man, a 69-year-old man who obviously should have known better, is facing 16 felony counts. Well, before I get deep into the story, let me give credit to Capital B News, who is really good. You guys should follow Capital B News. I follow them on Twitter. They do a lot of the local news here. But this 69-year-old man is facing 16 felony counts, including kidnapping, criminal confinement, armed robbery, and rape, according to the court records. This, I don't even want to call him a man. I don't want to call him an animal, because I like animals. I've found in my life that a lot of animals are a lot more honorable than humans are. In a lot of instances, I had 2 dogs, and they were some of the most honorable beings that you can have. They had respect and everything, and decency and everything else. They knew right from wrong. Dogs know right from wrong. And this supposed man brutally attacks this young girl outside of Michael Jackson's childhood home, which is our most prominent tourist attraction. When you tell people about Gary, Indiana, you tell people you're from Gary, what do they ask you about? They ask you about Michael Jackson. Hey, you ever be at Michael Jackson's house? You ever meet Michael Jackson? You know any of the Jacksons? Every single person who's not from this area who I've ever met in my life, when I tell them I'm from Gary, Indiana, they say like Michael Jackson. So tell me why anybody would be unsafe going to visit Michael Jackson's house. This is the one thing that we are famous for, other than, unfortunately, the whole murder capital of the world thing from the 90s, which we are no longer, thank God. But Michael Jackson. And this house is located right behind historic Roosevelt High School that his siblings went to. That, hell, everybody I work with here at WLTH seemingly went to. I was surrounded by Roosevelt people. I was brought here by a Roosevelt person. Roosevelt is the one thing, other than the Jacksons, that most of the people seem to be proud of. And for this to happen right by Roosevelt High School, right in front of the Jackson house, it's just disgusting. The prosecutor said that this individual, I don't want to dignify him by giving him a name even, approached this man and his daughter, who was 16 years old, on August 9th while they were taking photos outside of Michael Jackson's childhood home at 2300 Jackson Street. This disgusting individual shoved the gun into the girl's abdomen. You're 70 years old, guy. You're 70 years old. Like, and demanded money. Really? You're robbing a 16-year-old at 70? Despite being given nearly $300 in cash, this person, this entity, forced both the man and this young girl into a vehicle and directed the man to drive to an alley behind an abandoned home. Once there, this individual exited the vehicle with this young girl, ordering the father to stay in the car while threatening him at gunpoint. The girl later told police that this individual, I don't want to say his name, led her into nearby woods and forced her to perform sexual acts. That, good God. This ordeal ended later that day when the police discovered them at a residence in the 2200 block of Washington Street, about a half a mile from the Jackson family home, thanks to surveillance technology and community tips. For his part, our police chief, Derek Cannon, no relation, I'm not related to Chief Cannon as far as I know, commended the swift actions of his department and their collaboration with local law enforcement agencies. If convicted, this individual could face 300 years in prison. If it was up to me, we would bury him under the prison. Mayor Eddie Melton has said that he is devastated by this horrific crime, and I'm sure he is. But this goes back to, once again, the dereliction of all these administrations that have come and gone over the years. There is no reason why the home of the most famous and idolized and written about entertainer in the history of music, why his home where he grew up at would not be a landmark that is guarded like 24 hours a day, that is safe and in a safe environment. The entire area surrounding Roosevelt High School and the Jackson House should almost be covered in in laminate, okay? There should be no reason why we have people from England, France, Germany, Japan coming to this place specifically to see that. And something like that can happen. That is a failure of every administration in the last 50 years right there. The minute Thriller became the greatest selling album in the history of the world, the minute Michael Jackson went into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we started seeing just the sheer magnitude of this man's footprint. And not just him, I don't even just want to say him, Janet Jackson. Miss Jackson, if you're nasty, who I shout out every single week in the intro here, is one of the biggest pop stars of all time herself. And if that's not enough, the brothers, the Jackson 5, are one of the biggest bands in history. And they all grew up in that house. So we got the biggest entertainer in history, one of the biggest pop stars in history, one of the biggest bands in history. We only got one place that needs to be guarded 24 hours a day. Really? The Jackson house, the Jackson neighborhood, that block, that area from Roosevelt High School, the historic Roosevelt High School, to the Jackson house should be the safest place in America. It should be easier to rob Fort Knox than to rob or harass somebody at the Jackson House and at Roosevelt High School. That is a failure. That is an out-and-out failure. This story is absolutely disgusting. When it happened, I thought about covering it. I didn't want to cover it because, again, I genuinely hate doing stories that make the city of Gary look bad, because I love this city. That's why I say every week this is the greatest city in the world. I truly believe that. So many people I grew up with left the city, and I used to dream about it too, but I no longer dream about leaving the city anymore. So many people in my family have left the city. I don't dream about leaving anymore because I believe I want to be a part of the comeback. You know, I want to be here. I want people to say Hey, he was here when Gary was the murder capital, and he's here that Gary now is the Black Mecca again. But stories like this really, just really shake your confidence in everything about this city. We know we have criminals in this city. Again, I mean, just because we're not the murder capital anymore doesn't mean we're a utopia. I know that, Lake County in general, because we're right next to Chicago. Chicago is one of the most gangster cities on the planet. So obviously we're going to get a lot of runoff from Chicago, and always have since the days of Al Capone. That's nothing new. But you had one job, everybody. One job. One job. To have one safe area in the entire city that is completely unimpeachable, that is harder to corrupt than Fort Knox, and that is the Jackson House. Some of you might not know this. Some of you may, depending on how long you've been listening to the show, but my cousin was the late, great Gordon Keith, who discovered the Jackson 5 and put out Michael Jackson's first records as a performing artist. The Jacksons in general first records. And I remember when Michael died in 2009, I want to say, is when he passed away. Gordon was out there being interviewed by CNN, I saw clips from like German news channels. And I think it was German or Dutch or Swiss, one of them countries over there in Europe. They were interviewing her. There were people from Japan there. There were people from England, from Australia. These people congregated around the Jackson house. Whenever Michael Jackson has a birthday, which he just had yesterday, people come from all over the world to see it. And Janet too. And the Jackson 5 too. I mean, some cities have a whole bunch of really famous people and like superstars, and you know, they might be, you know, like Chicago is something where Kanye is from South Shore, Curtis Mayfield is from over here, the staple singers are from over here, Earth, Wind and Fire over here, R. Kelly from, you know, the Robert Taylor homes. No, pretty much all we got is one job in the city of Gary, and that is to protect the Jackson house. Okay? That is pretty much it. And the fact that we allowed, as a city, as a community, and the administrations over the years have allowed that area to continue to be a place that something like this could happen is such an overwhelming failure. Whew, good God. But to be more constructive and positive, this is not the only story I wanted to do in terms of protecting the young girls in this country, in this city. And definitely I want to I want to send out my thoughts and prayers to the family of Miss Ja'Niyah McMichael, who has been missing since August 11th. She's 13 years old, you guys. Please be on the lookout for Miss Ja'Niyah McMichael. She last spoke to her family on August 11th and was seen in the area on the 1900th block of Malcolm X Drive. She's wearing black pajamas, a black hoodie, and black and red shoes. She's approximately 4 feet tall, 101 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Her mother, Jasmine McMichael, and her grandmother, Dahlia Guerrero, say that the family is pleading for Ja'Niyah, to make a safe return. I am also praying for her to make a safe return. They've searched a 5-mile radius. She actually went missing the day before her first day of 8th grade at charter school for the Dunes. And, you know, this is just such a tragic story. Her mother said that they had, I guess, an argument the night before, which happens. Look, that happened. There was so many times when me and my parents, me and my mom especially, before the first day of school, that's the day that you get into it. That is the day you get into it. I remember to this day, I had to go to summer school. I broke my ankle. I broke my wrist when I was in the 9th grade playing basketball, being a moron. So I had to go to summer school before my senior year to make up the credits because I was pretty much disabled for about 2 or 3 months my freshman year of high school because of these injuries. And I remember this was the first year that they decided they was going to have summer school be all summer. They just so happened to start this when I got to go to summer school. Because usually summer school would be for about a few weeks in the first half of the summer or the second half of the summer. And I find out the summer school is all summer. So I'm like, I am not going. My mom's like, yes, you are. You going to summer school. I'm like, no, I'm not. I am not going to spend all summer in school. Summer vacation was important to me. And we had the biggest argument. And I ended up walking right out the front. I ain't going to this. Oh, man. You know, that happens. That happens. But you get over it. I ended up going to summer school and graduating on time like I was supposed to. These things happen. There's no way we can allow the last time Miss McMichael sees her daughter is after having a fight with her. And so, you know, afterwards she goes up, they go to bed, and the next morning she just wasn't there. And so if Ja'Niyah's listening to this, or if anybody who's seen Ja'Niyah's listening to this, her mother said she's not in any trouble. They just want you back. They just want you back. I mean, I think we as a community just want you back. And we want to know that you're okay. And so the Gary police and Ja'Niyah's family are asking the public to help search and offer any information to help with Miss McMichael's safe return. She is 13 years old. She's been missing since August 11th. She is 4'11", about 5 feet tall, and weighs 101 pounds. Anyone with information on Miss Ja'Niyah McMichael's whereabouts, please call the Gary Juvenile Division. You can contact Mr. Gregory Faison at 219-881-1229. 219-881-1229. Or you can call her grandmother, Miss Dahlia Guerrero, 219-210-5173. That's Dahlia Guerrero, 219-210-5173. And we all have to do a lot better job of protecting our young people in this country, in this city, especially our young girls who seem to be sitting ducks for a lot of these predators out there. I did the story a few months ago about the young woman in New York who was murdered by some idiot just because she didn't want to talk to him. And I said then, our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, girlfriends, wives, cousins, friends have all kinds of creepy interactions with men that we as men who are normal men, not creeps, have no idea about. That is sobering for me. That is sobering for me. That is one thing that as a man, I don't have the same level of experience with, because, you know, I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 220 pounds. Okay, I work out every day just about. Like, ain't too many people gonna get creepy with me. Ain't too many people gonna get creepy with me, or they gonna see what's up. But a young woman, people feel that they are entitled to a lot of young women's bodies and to invade the personal space of young women. That has to stop, and we as men have to do our parts to make sure that it stops as well. Oh God.